Comic book retailers often want to be listened to. I mean, and why shouldn't they? They're selling the comics day in, day out. They've got lots of opinions, advice, and real market data. But is their data always good? I'm going to side with the publishers for a change. Let's see where this goes. Hey there, this is Perch. Every now and then, a retailer will write a column, and oftentimes Bleeding Cool runs these. A couple other sites run these columns of retailers, basically kind of giving their view of the comic industry and what they've seen. And hey, I mean, hey, you're listening to this channel. This is somebody giving his view on the comic industry from a retailer perspective. And the parts, I think those are always good. I always like data. I always like to hear from other shop owners. I'm curious, where the data kind of lines up. And generally speaking, I would say 90% of the data all kind of is the same. It goes from one retailer to another, which is why it's particularly infuriating why more of the advice isn't taken. Like, I think if you surveyed all the retailers that have given opinions or blogs or talked up at a retailer summit or at a convention or anything else, um, almost all of them will say the publisher needs to supply more marketing. Right? That's a common thread. They need to supply more information. They need to give us more tools to help sell their books. It's every time, and it doesn't happen, or the publisher charges you for the marketing. I mean, it's kind of baffling at times when there's really basic, what I'd call marketing and sales one-on-one type information. It's not listened to. But there's another bit of feedback that often comes out, and I noticed it in a number of different threads and different columns, and I always see this whenever Bleeding Cool publishes their stuff. The retailer, there's two elements that I often see pop up, both of which I always kind of cringe at. The first is where the retailer wants to tell us how good they're doing. I don't know why. I don't know if it's an insecurity complex thing. I don't know what it is, but the retailer always kind of starts out with well, the comic industry is hard, but I'm selling more comics than anyone else, and I'm really powerful, and my stuff's, I'm doing great, but everything else sucks. And there's this, I don't know why say that. I mean, just, you can say, hey, this is working for me, this isn't working for me. But when you're about to give a bunch of feedback to the publishers about how things are broken, and I've seen this happen at retailer convention or summits and conventions all the time, the little breakfasts we have, a retailer will say something like, um, there's some really big problems in the industry. This is wrong, and this is broken, and this is broken, and this is broken. I'm doing great, by the way, but these things are broken. And from just a credibility standpoint, if you're wanting to send a message of there's some things really wrong and broken and in trouble, don't follow it up by saying everything is awesome for you and you're making lots of money. It makes you look like a stupid person. And it's always how it comes across. And I watch this kind of smirking from a distance of like, here's the retailer losing all credibility right now. And I don't know why they do it. And I know in some of these cases, I'll have lunch, and the retailer's like, man, I didn't make rent last month, and so I'm trying to get an extension. I'm like, so your things aren't going great for you? He's like, no, man, it's terrible, but I don't want to show weakness. It's like, this is not Mortal Kombat. What are you doing? You got to just anyway. I don't know. It makes me laugh. The second thing that I see that kind of strikes me the wrong way is, I think this is just a personal preference for everything. I think you got to come with ideas. And one of the things I see happening a lot with retailers is they'll say things like, the publishers really need to listen to us. Why don't the publishers reach out? Why don't the publishers listen to us? And it's like, okay, listen to you about what? Like, what do you want them to hear? Do you want to, like, it's an idea that's come up a lot, which has been, and it was really goofy, 2018 at the retailer summit at SDCC. There was a guy who goes, I would like to set up a advisory. I would like a regular call, a regular scheduled, connect with retailers from the publisher. It's going to happen, and that's what I think should happen. And I don't remember was it I think it was DC I think it was Didio that was up there. And it's like, all right, well, what kind of topics do we talk about? Silence. It's like, well, we're not sure. Like the response was, we don't know, but we just think the call should be set up, and we'll get the call set up, and then the topics will come later. And I think if you're going to get somebody's attention, if you're going to want to be heard, if you're going to say, the publishers, Diamond, whoever needs to listen to us, you got to come with a little bit of like, what are they listening to? Is it your, like, how you felt today? Is it that the comics are coming in a crap condition? What is it? Is it that, we're going to get on this call and we're going to complain about variant covers again? I mean, yeah, those are a problem, but there's got to be more to it than that. And I think in many cases, when I talk to retailers and I see these columns, there's this kind of outrage that they're not being quote unquote listened to. And I hear you. I feel that way at times. Why don't you listen to the retailers? Why don't you let us help? But I guess the difference with me, and I'm doxing myself right now because anybody who's in the business and has been with me at a summit knows exactly who I am right now. Because I've said this before, we've got to bring ideas. We've got to bring an actual plan to the table. We've got to come with a solution. We've got to come with evidence. This is something that's wrong. This is something that's impacting me. Here's ways it would be better. Maybe you have some better ways it could be better, but here's exactly what's wrong. And you can't frame it up like it's just a bitch session, because that's what Diamond, that's what the publishers are hearing. Having gone to the other side of the table, had a chat with the publishers, they will say the retailers just like to bitch. That's what they do. That's what it means to be a comic. They're never happy about anything. They just want to complain. And so that becomes their excuse for not connecting. And what frustrates me as a retailer is that I do have ideas, and I know many other retailers who have concrete ideas and plans, and we are getting silenced by loudmouth, in some cases, retailers who want to complain and be listened to, but don't really have any ideas. In fact, their ideas are things like, their ideas are silly ideas, like lower the prices down to 99 cents, but let us keep 100% of the revenue. I mean, I've heard that idea come out. I remember a retailer, this goes back more years, I think 2015, somewhere in there, where a retailer suggests that for 2 years, the big publishers, because they're making so much money anyway, that they should just give 100% to the stores and take no cut whatsoever with their product. Now, that's nice, but I consider that like in the same realm of me wishing that I could fly or destroy people with my eyes, with laser beams, or I will win the lottery and there will be an island thrown in as well as the money. I mean, those are happy little fantasies, but those are not productive fantasies. You're not going to get a company to give you a good for nothing for 2 years and just eat the cost. That's not going to occur. Now, if you want to say, hey, for issue number one, we think maybe your cut could be lower as a way to kind of push the market and help get the title off. Okay, there's more of an idea, but crazy, ridiculous fantasies and pure complaining, all it does is it disincentivizes the publishers from wanting to work with retailers, and that's the dynamic that happens. So, for all of you listening, probably very few retailers or people that work in a publisher listening to this, so probably 99% of you are fall into that camp. This is the interesting game of checkers that goes on. I was going to say chess, but that indicates way too much strategy. It's a game of checkers that goes on between the two. And I think if you're thinking about a sustainable business, if we're just thinking about making comics healthy and strong for everyone, the publisher, the creators, the retailer, everybody in that business chain, then everybody needs to make money. Everybody needs to have ideas and solutions, and it has to be a healthy growth business, which is why you can use that same assessment. By the way, I've used that quote for many things. Everybody has to make money. That is an indicator to a successful ecosystem. If one part of that chain is not making money, then you've got a problem, and that invariably results in it doesn't, it's not sustainable. or it requires different business approaches. But that's there you go. So that's where I feel for the publishers to some extent. Um, I do think that that is a case that goes on where the publishers could use more data. If we want change to happen, we got to give them a little bit more than just we need to be listened to or you're wrong. And for the love of God, don't pretend you're doing gangbusters in business when you're not. That doesn't help you. Doesn't help anybody. Anyway, what do you think? You have questions, comments? Fly on the wall. Would you like? Do you have a question you'd like me to answer about how it all goes down? I am happy to answer it. Just leave a comment below. Like and subscribe if you don't mind. Get Perch to 20,000. No, that's not achievable, but it's a nice thought. It's like the lottery in the island and free comics. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch. Thanks for listening.